In the intro to Liberty Falls, we see something that honestly is a little heartwarming at first for Richtofen, but then very quickly turns into the worst thing that could ever happen to him. And this, of course, is in the intro where we see Richtofen in the park or woods with his wife and his child. And it seems all nice at first until he steps away from them, because then he has a feeling in his chest, then looks back and sees his family engulfed in flames, and then finally a flash of them burnt to death. And this seems to be the main motivation for Richtofen in this story. And I know if you guys are watching this, you guys are huge fans of the zombie storyline. And I'm going to continue to cover this story throughout the entirety of BO6. So right away, head down, subscribe, and even drop a like. Now, the interesting thing about what we see in this intro is that we actually kind of knew about this since Cold War. In fact, we know who actually killed his family. It is actually documented in one of the documents in Cold War. And it all comes from this diary entry from Samantha Maxis. And I'll read it off for you guys in its entirety. I couldn't sleep. 3 a.m. I hear a knock at my apartment door. You gave me the key word, I let you in. We'd never met face to face before. It was a shock to finally meet you. You were in a bad way. I did my best to dress your wounds, but it was the first and only time I've ever seen you cry. You mumbled something about not knowing, about how sorry you were. You torched the place to cover your tracks after the hit. You said the boy was supposed to be staying with his mother, but he wasn't. He was there, in the house, while it burnt to the ground. Now, of course, it is pretty obvious now what is being talked about here. This is Richtofen's family that was burnt to the ground. But what is a little interesting here is that why this person burnt it down. He was doing a hit. He was attempting the life on somebody. That somebody we now know as Richtofen. And we know this for sure is because if we look at the character model for Richtofen, we see a scar on his neck. He was the target of this hit, and the person who did this hit believed he got him. But as we clearly could see, he survived with the scar. But unfortunately for Richtofen, the rest of his family did not survive. Now the question is, who is this character? Who did this? Well, it's not hard to figure out. These diary entries were to none other than Grigori Weaver. Yes, Weaver, the one from Cold War, who was directing us the whole time, and of course is now going to be a playable character in BO6 Zombies. He is the one who attempted a hit on Richtofen, and instead of killing him, he kills his family instead. And this makes sense because with the recent teaser we got from Terminus, while Grigori Weaver is in prison, we see directly it says, the director wants this one to suffer. And it makes sense. The director is Richtofen, and Grigori Weaver killed his family. So of course, if he wants anyone to suffer, it is Grigori Weaver. Which is kind of ironic now that Grigori Weaver is now seeking revenge on Richtofen after he tried to kill Richtofen and then accidentally killed his family instead. But of course, it doesn't end there. We actually have a little bit more to this story. Now, the story doesn't end there. We have actually more hints also from Cold War Zombies. And it's this piece of paper here. Because here we see a paper that we will read, but the main things to take away is that we see a drawing of Mr. Peaks of all characters. But the most important thing to take from this is the burnt edges. This is believed to be a drawing by none other than Richtofen's kid, which we also know to be named Samuel. But what's interesting about this piece of paper is what it says. This is my best friend, Mr. Peaks. Mr. Peaks is always watching. Mr. Peaks likes to play hide and seek. Mr. Peaks lives in my hat. Mr. Peaks always tells the truth. Thank you, Mr. Peaks. You keep me safe in the dark place. And this is what I believe to be the most interesting part, because this makes it seem like maybe Richtofen's son didn't die, but instead is trapped in the dark ether, and was saved from the fire from none other than Mr. Peaks, a character that is very mysterious on its own. And this is definitely going to play out throughout the story of Black Ops 6 Zombies. Richtofen, his hatred for Weaver, and potentially his son and Mr. Peaks in the dark ether. And honestly, I can't wait to figure out what is all this about. But for now, this is the explanation for why and how Richtofen's family was burnt to death. And that's going to wrap it up for this one. A little bit darker, but you know, it's the story that we have. That's all I'm doing is explaining it. But I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions on everything we've talked about. But most importantly, I'd love to hear your theories about how is all of this going to play out throughout the span of BO6 Zombies. But regardless though, that's going to wrap it up for me. If you guys did enjoy this video and you found it informative, I'd appreciate if you guys dropped a like, subscribe, bell, share, any of that great stuff. But I'm going to go, and I'll catch you guys in the next stream, video, or whatever the heck it may be. And laters, guys.